that's a navigation bridge, and that's where from this place I'm running the ship, I would say.
Yeah, the work one.
Sorry.
Bigger or smaller than the one that we used in Bali?
It's
Way
big,
bigger,
way big.
actually. In Balikatan, it was a frigate, because in French we both call that frégate, but actually the Vendémiaire, who was participating in Balikatan, is a frigate, according to the US classification, and it was designed more for surveillance.
So it's
This one is a destroyer.
3 times bigger, to be honest.
That's where my confusion was. Yes.
I'm the commanding officer of this ship, destroyer Bretagne, a French Navy ship based in Brittany, in Brest, in the northwest part of France. This destroyer is a brand new ship for the French Navy. She's the fifth in a series of 8 destroyers we commissioned during the last 10 years, and this one was commissioned in 2019, so it's just a 4-year-old ship, brand new for the French Navy. She's a multi-purpose destroyer, capable of acting in the entire maritime spectrum of operation, but she is mainly dedicated to anti-submarine warfare, which means hunting any submarine wherever we are. Our usual playground is the North Atlantic. Time to time it's the Baltic Sea, and we are operating then under national command or under a NATO structure, NATO alliance or chain of command. This ship is operated by a crew of 150, among which 26 women, and she embarks an NH-90 helicopters just behind you, operated also by a French Navy squadron of 15 personnel. We left Brest, our home port, on the 12th of April for a several months deployment. We should be back normally, the ship should be back normally at the end of October. We first patrol in the eastern Mediterranean Sea due to the rising tensions that occurred between Iran and Israel in this region. We then crossed the Suez Canal, sailed toward the Red Sea, and we joined there a European Union operation, ASPIDES, that aims at ensuring freedom of navigation and maritime security in the Red Sea that is today contested by the Houthi rebels in the Yemen. There we escorted vessels in the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb and the Gulf of Aden. Finally, we contribute to counter piracy and building up a robust maritime situation awareness in the Indian Ocean, made a port visit in Kochi, India, and we entered the Pacific area by crossing the Sunda Strait and conducting a port visit in Jakarta, Indonesia. We are now operating in the Pacific area according to the French Command and Control structure, and I am reporting to my commanding officer, or admiral commanding the area, who is based in the French Polynesia in Tahiti. Bretagne will stay in this area for 4 months. We started this momentum by a first patrol in the South China Sea to better understand both the maritime actors and the environment in this region. Deploying such a highly capable unit is quite a commitment for the French Navy, and this commitment will be valued by strengthening our bonds with our partners in the region, among which the Philippine Navy. Due to the French territories in New Caledonia and in the French Polynesia Islands, France is a nation of the Pacific area. Having territories and French citizens in the region is, for our national forces, a great responsibility. We assume this responsibility by positioning permanent joint forces in the area, but also by deploying high-end assets like Destroyer Bretagne from homeland in Europe. By patrolling in the region, we directly contribute to the stabilization of this region. Freedom of navigation is a key element from a Navy and maritime perspective to ensure economic activity on the global world. We advocate for a free and open maritime domain, and we support that by our patrols. Our commitments in many forums and organizations try to support this aim. We are keen on gathering around us on the same table people, countries, Navy, maritime actors that are sharing common values, which means protections against illegal activities, protection of the populations in case of climate emergency, protection of the environment. I would like to thank the Philippine Navy for the warm welcome we received this morning and in their water and on this pier this morning actually. I did some courtesy call this morning. We host a lunch with a high level of participation from the Philippine Armed Forces. We will take time during our stay in Manila to build up mutual knowledge and common procedures to be able to operate together at sea in this region. Building up confidence takes time, and the French Navy, as a Navy of the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, has already operated with the Philippine Navy. You welcomed recent port visits, and the number is increasing throughout the years. The French CNO was in Manila in last April, and a frigate, home base in New Caledonia, Vendémiaire, participated recently to an exercise called Balikatan, which is a high-level exercise hosted by the Philippine Navy. To increase our interoperability, we will run an exercise at sea with the Philippine Navy just after this port visit in Manila. That's all for this introduction brief. Thank you for your attention, and I'm bringing the floor to His Excellency, Mrs. Fontenelle, Ambassador of France in the Philippines.
Thank you so much, Capitaine, for your warm welcome on La Bretagne. Hello everyone, I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon, Magandang Umaga. It's a real pleasure to see you both all again. We met a few weeks ago when we were at the French Embassy, and you know that I'm very proud each time to have events and press conference at the French Embassy because it's a real brand new embassy. But I cannot be prouder than being here in front of you on this wonderful destroyer, La Bretagne, not only because it has a personal meaning for me, being myself born in Brittany, but particularly because you know that this year, 2024, we had and we will have many occasions to confirm the political will of the Minister of Armed Forces to enhance the relationship between France and the Philippines at the strategic and defense level. You know that our Minister, Sébastien Lecornu, was here in Manila December 2. He signed with Secretary Teodoro a letter of intent with the objective to enhance the level of partnership, to create more and more strategic and operational intimacy between the armed forces. And this has many consequences. One of them is, of course, more frequent port calls, more frequent interactions, like the one today with the port call of La Bretagne, like the one that was recalled also by a captain when another frigate, Vendémiaire, was participating lately in the Balikatan exercise, and many other interactions to come. So I'm very proud, very happy to be here with you today. We will have a sequence of questions and answers. You might have one for the captain or also for me, but I let that up to you to start the questions. Thank you so much.
For Ambassador, bonjour, salut, je m'appelle JP Soriano, GMA News. Yes, I'd just like to ask Ambassador, has France and the Philippines officially started negotiations or at least discussed the modalities regarding the visiting forces agreement between our two countries? So has it officially started yet? Because you did mention about the letter of intent that
Yes.
we signed. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I take one question at a time, if you're okay with that. So thank you for your questions. And yes, the opening of negotiations of a VFA is an objective of the letter of intent that was signed in December. And for those who were with me and my colleague, ambassador of the Indo-Pacific in the French embassy for the last press conference, it was just the day after, indeed, the chief of the Navy was here also in Manila. We had this discussion. We had a fourth meeting of a Committee on Cooperation and Defense, Joint Committee on Cooperation and Defense in Paris last week, actually. And the teams have started discussing the modalities of how they could open the negotiations on the VFA. But to start officially the negotiation, there will be few steps to be undertaken first. The first one is to have a draft, which you can imagine it's a long process because it's a legal document that has many implications. So first of all, there will be a drafting session, probably starting on my part, on the French government part, and then the discussion might open. You know probably, and it's not a secret, that the Philippines is actively negotiating a VFA with Japan. So we understood that so far they were intensively, actively working on the negotiation on the VFA. So probably it will take time, and then they will be open for opening officially the negotiation. So still discussing the modalities, establishing a plan of possibly opening the discussion once we will have a draft. And I hope, let's not commit to any calendar schedule, because it will be also up for the Philippines to answer that question, but I hope we were on a good track for that.
But it will definitely prosper, most likely within the year?
Oh, that I cannot commit, as I was saying, because it's not you. It needs two to tango, right? So it's also for the Philippines to answer that question. But for sure, the matter is on the agenda. It has been discussed during the joint committee in Paris, and the will that was expressed in the letter of intent is really still to negotiate a VFA. But it can take months, probably, because it's really important legal discussions.
Madam Ambassador, just last question on my part. How does, we're in Manila, but we're not too far from West Philippine Sea, but how does France view China's fishing ban in the Philippines maritime zones, which is protested in violating international law and sovereignty? Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you so much. Let me maybe take the broader picture here. You know that we have always stated in favor of international law, and particularly international law of the sea, being a state party like the Philippines to UNCLOS. So international law should always prevail. As precisely the question on the late ban, we don't have yet an official statement, so I won't be more specific, but the broader picture is, in my view, enough to recall that we are always in favor of the application of international law, particularly international law of the sea, that ensures freedom of navigation. Thank you.
Captain, I'm Cecil Morella from the Agence France Press. I don't speak your language, so. The exercises that you will be holding with the Philippine Navy after the port call, will it be in the South China Sea? And will it be anywhere near the Spratlys or Scarborough Shoal, maybe?
To be honest, I don't know exactly where it will be, because we are still organizing it. We have a first planning process this morning, and we do a second one on Monday. I think it's going to be quite close to your littoral, because it's a reduced ambition exercise. Reduce why? Because we're coming together quite recently on this exercise. That's not a big exercise such as Balikatan, which takes months to plan to gather so many assets. So now it's more something that we could do on a short notice, and that's great to have that in mind, because being able to operate with two different navies on a short notice is also something that we want to be capable of with the Philippine Navy. So we have now common ground based on our previous experience at sea, and we are able to conduct this short notice interaction, I would say, which means if we are capable of doing that in 2 meetings of 1 hour during a port visit, tomorrow, really tomorrow, we will be capable of doing that by encountering each other at sea and be capable to operate together at sea. You know, operating at sea, it's something complex because you are closing different assets and you have to be very accurate on the coordination process. And now with the Philippine Navy, we passed these steps, so we are able to coordinate at sea, but we really want to step up, which means having more complex coordinations, having more complex standards, more complex procedures, and it will take time to develop these kind of elements. So it's a mix between short notice events, like the one we were conducting, and we are conducting, or we will conduct, and high intensity one, such as Balikatan, which is a long process with planning conferences and so on. So the answer to the question would be, it should be close, but it's good to be close because it's a short notice one.
Let's follow up. I don't suppose it will involve live fire?
To be honest, I'm ready for it, but it will be in the Philippine territory, so let's see for the permission I will have to operate my fires in your territorial waters. So that's another discussions we may have. based on your regulations in your territorial waters. But if I'm authorized to, I will be pleased to share a fire exercise with the Philippine Navy. That's a good step of interoperability to be capable of conducting gunnery exercises.
Thank you, sir.
Question for Ambassador.
Is it working? You're on mine?
Good afternoon. France, for the first time, joined the Balikatan Awarders last year. Is there any plan to join future maritime cooperative activity with the Philippines and the other partners in the West Philippine Sea in the coming months or in the coming years?
Well, thank you for the question. And once again, if we take the broad picture, yes, of course, the answer is yes. This is the spirit of the letter of intent and the will of both our governments to intensify and increase the interactions between our armed forces, and meaning training together, exercising together. So on the principle, yes. And I think, by the way, the participation to the Balikatan exercise was already a really important first step for us, and very interesting to learn better how we operate in the region. And then, as for specifically saying what will happen next year, for example, we don't know yet. It's a little bit early. It always depends on many grounds that can explain why we decide. We want it, but then there is the international context. There is also the availability of our capabilities and of our vessels, and then many other reasons that can explain, and also the fact that the Balikatan is not a multilateral exercise. It's a bilateral exercise between the Philippines and the US. So this is also first to both the US and the Philippines to organize, to plan, and we know that we are already invited to the planification conferences, but it will be decided one step at a time, I would say.
Yes, the VFA is the bedrock for more cooperation, military cooperation between both countries. Will you enjoin the Philippine counterpart to fast track the deal between both countries?
Can you be more specific? I'm not sure I understood exactly your question.
I mean, will you encourage the Philippine side to fast track the signing of the treaty between both countries?
Well, we are not there. Sorry, we are not there yet to be at the signing period. So first of all, we take it one step at a time. There is the political will. There is discussion on the method and how we will proceed. We have to draft a VFA. We have our own experience because we have already this kind of agreement with other countries. The Philippines has also his own experience. So let's see how it proceeds. But we are not. I mean, I don't see any need to rush onto a signature pressure because we haven't started the discussion on the text yet. So, but as you see, it doesn't prevent us from doing already a lot, and I hope more and more in the coming months and years, like this exercise. So it's, I would say, a parallel process, and once we will be ready, we being the Philippines and France, it will come naturally, I think.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Bea Copin from Rappler. Bigger picture, perhaps, how would a VFA, once it's eventually negotiated and signed, and how would these joint sales and increased engagement between the two navies of the Philippines and France, how would they contribute to France's Indo-Pacific strategy?
Thank you. So you recall that, yes, we do have a Indo-Pacific strategy since 2018, actually. And we also encouraged our European partners to have one. So we now have also a European Indo-Pacific strategy, which is based on many aspects. The thing is that through this strategy, we really want to partner, to become more and more partners with all the countries of the region. And I would qualify or specify that we consider that we are partners of sovereignty. What we can, and the way we see the international situation and also in the Indo-Pacific is that there is first important to recall the importance of international law and multilateralism. We are many countries, each country is sovereign, and we need to be collectively engaged in the region because we all have the same interest to ensure a free and open Indo-Pacific, freedom of navigation for everyone. So that's the main objective we have. And to achieve that, yes, we have to partner more on sovereign issues. Defense is one natural issue of sovereignty, I would say, but it's not the only one. You have many areas where our sovereignties are at stake, be it energy security, food security, maritime cooperation, climate change, for example. So we really want to address all those issues, not only defense and security, and to build a stronger partnership with the Philippines and other countries on those aspects of our sovereignties. You know, maybe in history, France has always been very keen in our foreign policy on our strategic autonomy, to have a specific voice maybe, not to be trapped in blocks. And we consider that it's important that for us we can build those partnerships of sovereignties. So that's the big picture. So of course, a VFA and the security and defense field is one aspect of the strategy, and we are very happy since the signature of the letter of intent to intensify our discussions. The VFA is one aspect of it, but it's not the only one. Training, port calls, for example, is another aspect. Discussions also with on the modernization of the armed forces program is another aspect of the letter of intent. So let's have the broader picture. And once again, our Indo-Pacific strategy is really even broader on sovereignty, not only security, but also other aspects. And may I just for a moment raise a hat to communicate on the big event we will have next Wednesday, the launching of our program Blue Nations, France and the Philippines partner for the oceans. So please come. We would be very interested to discuss with you precisely this broader picture, the fact that we want to partner with the Philippines, and we think that the Philippines want also to partner with you on all aspects of the fact that we both are maritime nations. We have multi-dimensional issues, I would say. Maritime security is one, blue economy is another one, preservation of the biodiversity of the oceans is a third one, and these are all the issues that we want to tackle in this Blue Nations program. So please, we will meet again, if you agree, on Wednesday for that occasion.
For our viewers who are not really knowledgeable about the technicalities of the features of the ship, could you share some of the military tactical features of the French Navy, this ship? Like how many helicopters can it accommodate at any given time? If you could share some of its features. Thank you. Merci.
Yes, some of the features. So this is quite a large ship first, 6,000 tons. I would say operated by 150 personnel. The crew is composed of 150 members, including 26 women. And concerning the capabilities, this ship is really capable of operating in all the spectrum of maritime operations, which means I'm capable of detecting and tracking and engaging, if required, a subsurface unit. I have 2 sonars for that, one hull-mounted and one variable depth sonar at the stern of the ship. These are the detection elements, and I have torpedoes, of course, to engage the submarines if required by the tactical situation. I have for the surface, I have a radar capable of detecting at long range surface units. The bigger the unit, the longer the range. And I can also engage this entity by missiles, surface to surface, but also by gunnery with a 76mm gun. And for air defense, I can detect and track also a variety of air assets on 3 dimensions, which means I have the position and the altitude of this aircraft, and I can track and engage this aircraft with missiles, but also with gun if required. These are true capabilities owned by the French Navy, capabilities that we have experienced from some of them, for tracking for sure, for engaging sometimes, but the last engagement for the French Navy with this type of vessel was the Red Sea, when we faced the Houthi threat in the air area, where we faced one-way suicide UAV, but also missile targeting the commercial vessel crossing the Red Sea and the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb. And sister ship of this one engage and defend this commercial vessel through the tracking capabilities of this vessel, but also the engaging capability of the vessel, because at the end, when you are attacked, you have to defend yourself, and that's a part of the job of the Navy in the world. We have also an helicopter, you see just behind me, the NH-90, which is an 11-ton class helicopter, also multi-purpose, which means this helicopter is capable of doing search and rescue operation, which is the basics of any ship in the French Navy. We have to rescue people if required. We have to provide assistance to populations if required. That's the background of our tasking. And on top of that, this helicopter is capable of detecting and tracking surface track, but also to detect, track, and engage submarine in the vicinity of the force we preserve. On board this helicopter, there is a sonar that can be filled at some meters below the water, and it's also capable of embarking torpedoes to engage these submarines if required by the tactical situation. So it's, at the end of the day, it's quite a powerful ship that you are or you're on today. And the idea there is really to show the commitments of the French Armed Forces and the French Navy in this region. As you know, my home port is not there. It took almost 2 months for me to be here, which is quite a journey. But once we are there, we can provide all our knowledge in this area. And on top of that, sharing this knowledge with countries such as Philippines that already knows better the environment than I am. So I'm learning every day in this area, but some countries, including your Navy, already know the environment. And by sharing together through administrative agreements or through just chat, discussion, interaction that we may have, sailors to sailors, we are learning a lot in the contact of all our regional partners, and among which the Philippine Navy is one of the first ones.
Merci, and welcome to Manila.
Thank you.
Sir, good afternoon. Vince Lopez from Manila Standard.
Good afternoon.
You mentioned earlier that the ship, the Bretagne, has sailed in the South China Sea. Is there any encounter with the Chinese, like shadowing or radio challenges, that has encountered or monitored by the ship during its transit in the area?
South China Sea is quite a new area for us. So when we sail in this area, we are discovering or detecting many assets, which are the assets exercising their freedom of navigation in this area. Most of them are civilian vessels doing some traffics, doing some fishing activities, and that's what I'm learned. Among them, of course, you have Navy of the area, patrolling in the area to do the same job I'm doing, which means detecting who is doing what and maybe controlling some areas. So while crossing the South China Sea, I met these navies. We met together and we exchange, not discussion, but common pictures, which means I know that there are navies around me and they know that I'm around them. So that's the way navies are interacting in a common area, which was quite professional during this South China Sea patrol.